Hello folks, it's DTLT Today time. I'm Andy Rush, and I'm kind of forlorn because, for one, there's no one here to join me on the cuddle couch yet. But number two, if you look behind me, there's a green screen, and that's kind of unfortunate because it shouldn't really be green. It should be a different color, it should be a different background, and I don't really know what's going on. When we switch to it in our live shot with the green screen turned on, it seems to freeze, and no one can come into the camera because no one can be seen. So we've turned it off. So again, for today's show, we've got the disappointments out of the way here. For today's show, we're going to do a few things. What I'm first going to do is kind of point you to a neat little video that I saw on the Vimeo, and it's talking about a new video camera, essentially, that is made by Canon, and it's a high-end kind of emulator of a film camera. It's called the Canon EOS C300, and there's a neat little demo video that someone put up on Vimeo. So I can show you that particular few minutes of the video right now, so you can see what it's all about.
With the advent of HD SLRs, shooting with an open f-stop has become extremely common. But in this shot, you can't see the background. And up until now, you couldn't tell that the man you were waiting for is a bearded freak show. The C300 has such strong ISO performance that you can close down your iris to achieve a deeper depth of field. This can allow your backgrounds to be more present in the frame, which is especially useful when shooting against iconic backgrounds that relate to your story. This was shot at 1250 ISO, and you can see how little noise is present in the frame. Even at 5000 ISO, noise is very much under control. At 20,000 ISO, noise is texturally present, but the noise looks more like film grain than video noise. This guy is upset because he dropped his ice cream cone and he's not handling it like a man. He's moving around so much that he's hard to keep in focus at an open stop. Our grumpy focus pooler has no chance of nailing this shot at an open 1.2 stop on our 85mm lens. But when we stop down the lens to a 5.0, the focus pooler has a better chance of keeping things in focus. Also, the backgrounds are more visible in this shot.
How was the shot, James?
Fucking actors. These shots were done hand.
Okay, so I love the little shout out to the actors who have their issues with these particular scenes. But that's the EOS C300 camera, and it looks to be something that's kind of taking on the Red camera, but the ISO stuff was, I thought, particularly interesting. So we'll put that video up in the show notes, and you can watch the rest of it. The next thing that I want to do is kind of an experiment, and I'm going to attempt to gain the assistance from one of my DTLT colleagues. I need to go to Google Hangouts, and we can show you what's going on here. So I'm going to set up a Google Hangout, and you see my small thumbnail face in the window there. I'm going to start a Hangout, and this is what is known as Hangouts with Extras. And I'm going to invite someone to this Hangout, and I'm actually going to choose this tab right down here that says Phone, and I'm going to dial a phone number, and I'm going to switch back to my shot so that you don't see the phone number that I enter, at least not at this point. And we're going to call this person.
Good afternoon. This is Martha Burtis.
Hi, Martha. Can you hear me?
Hi, Andy. What's going on?
I'm calling you from a Google Hangout.
That's funny. I thought you were calling me from the other side of the room.
I'm literally like 12 feet away from you, I think. But I'm calling you with a new feature from Google Plus called Hangouts with Extras. and it allows me to call any U.S. phone number. Now I don't know. Can you see what's on your voice information? Your caller ID?
Yeah,
Does it say?
Sure, it says 666
It does not say that.
970462. I'm sorry, my phone's a little dusty. I don't use it very much. 7874.
That would be my Google Voice phone number that I have associated with my account. So I can actually use
Interesting.
Google Hangouts to call any landline or any other phone that you can dial
For free?
for free from your Google Voice. So,
That doesn't sound like it should be legal.
well, apparently it is. Apparently it's okay. Google Voice has been around, and you can do lots of things with Google Voice. We haven't talked too much about it on DTLT today, but it's one of those kind of caller voice services. You can redirect your phone call to different phones. You can kind of manage your life with voicemail. It's a really interesting piece that Google has, but now it's kind of built into Hangouts with extras. So if you invite somebody and go to that phone tab, you can dial any phone number in the U.S., I believe, and it'll work. I don't know about Canada at this point. That's one of the experiments.
What would happen if you dialed my Google Voice number?
Your what?
My Google Voice number.
It probably would call you there, and then
Interesting.
you would answer in whatever way you would want to. So
I'm just wondering if there was a way for your computer and my computer to talk to each other without either of us actually being there.
what do you think they would say?
I think there'd be a lot of awkward silences. Sort of like when you and I talk. But honestly, what I really want to know is this, are you going to be calling me a lot? Because I actually do have work to do.
Well, but before you do any work, I think you actually need to join me here on the set.
Okay, if we can be clear about one
Right.
thing. You mentioned earlier that you haven't been joined on the cuddle couch yet.
Yeah, you're right.
I'd like to clarify, I will not be joining you on the cuddle
As
couch.
soon as those words left my mouth, I realized that there wouldn't be anything to do with cuddle in this show.
Okay, I just-
so you can sit in your
I
traditional
know.
chair.
Before I make the trek, I just want to make sure that you and I are on the same page.
How long should we give you to get over here onto the
You know, it's raining out today, so I need to, find my umbrella, and I'll try and get over there as soon as I can, okay?
I'll be
All right.
waiting patiently.
See you
All
soon,
right,
Nancy.
thanks.
Okay.
I'm gonna
bye.
exit out of this, and we'll say okay, and we'll switch back to. Oh,
Well, I'm here.
hi, Martha.
Hi, how are you?
It's good to see you.
Good to be here. Oh, wait. Who am I? Oh, I'm not Martha.
Hey, Andy, I came as quick as I could. I brought my umbrella because it's raining.
I feel like I just left a time warp.
Why?
Or a like a black hole.
Did you
in
miss-
the universe?
why?
Well, because someone was here a second ago, or at least it was almost like there was someone here a second ago that looked like Jim.
Oh, he's not in the office.
I know.
He's been in meetings all day.
That's what's really weird.
I-
It's like he's doing this director stuff,
Yeah.
and he never has time to like do anything. DTLT. What's
He
I got?
doesn't have fun anymore.
I got to be a director. Is kind of
Being director isn't about fun.
the attitude.
It's
well,
about getting the work done.
That's why I'm not director, because I'm all about the fun.
I also want to thank you for not putting the green screen on today since I'm wearing green.
Well, maybe
figured
that
that
was this kind of side benefit.
That was why
oh,
you.
someone just waved goodbye. Did you see?
It was like a shadow, like a ghostly shadow.
Yeah, I'm really confused. But anyway, I
Yeah.
maybe
Did you do that
subconsciously,
deliberately?
I was thinking that Martha wore green today, and I wanted you to be on the show today. I didn't want you to miss it, and so we got the green.
Oh, I
screen
thought
to
that was
stop
on
working.
purpose. I thought that you did that for me.
Really, it was
Not
kind of
so much.
frustrating, and if I could have literally banged my head on the table, I probably would have, but I didn't have time to do that for today's show. So,
Well, yeah.
so I hope everybody enjoyed the video. I hope the Google Hangout stuff was cool. There was one other thing that I wanted to talk about today that people should at least kind of be aware of. It's one of those topics that we've been talking about in terms of education reform and things that we like to see change. And it had to do with a school board member, and there's lots of activity going on outside our offices. So if you hear banging and slashing of whatever, that's not us.
No.
So there's this. Let's switch to the webpage. It's at the Washington Post, and there's this pretty decent blog called The Answer Sheet. It's a school survival guide to parents and everyone else. And this person, Valerie Strauss, will have guest bloggers and other people who will add their 2 cents about ed reform. Alfie Cohn, one of the guys that I follow, is one of my favorites. He'll blog on this site.
That's,
and
by the
others.
way, the model of blogging that I want to go for.
Okay.
Because I just want to have other people come and write on my blog and get me credit for it.
Sure.
Would you be a guest blogger on my blog, Andy?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yep.
You'll be my first guest blogger.
I'm actually flattered that someone of your stature would ask me to guest blog.
Like I said,
the kind of posts that I write.
it's going to be a soft launch. Not many people are going to read your post.
Okay.
But we'll work out the kinks.
All right.
So anyway, go ahead.
That's kind of what I expected. Eventually, we're going to get to the denigration of what I was contributing. But anyway, so a school board member. Originally, he was anonymous, but he decided that he was going to.
Where's the school board?
Well, we found out that it was
Yeah.
in Florida.
Right.
But originally, he just kind of said he let people know that he was a school board member of a very large school district, or a relatively large school district, and he was going to take one of the standardized tests for 10th grade, and he was going to just see how he did, see what the test was like, see how he performed, and then publicly announce his results. I don't know whether he intended to remain anonymous the whole time or not. I think he may have changed his mind at some point. But it turns out that this guy's name is Rick Roach. He is in Orange County, Florida. It's a public school system with 180,000 students.
Not to be confused with the OC.
Not to be confused with the OC, which is on the left coast.
Yes.
This is the one on the right coast. And by right, I also mean correct.
Yes.
But he took these things called the FCATs, which are the Florida Comprehensive Assessment Tests. And guess how he did?
Awesome.
Oh,
He rocked that test.
both the math and the reading. He said, I won't beat around the bush. The math section had 60 questions. I knew the answers to none of them, but managed to guess 10 out of 60 correctly.
Oh, Mr. Roach.
On the reading test, I got 62%. In our system, that's a D, and would get me a mandatory assignment to a double block of reading instruction. So, he really kind of detailed the FCATs and what they do, and he talks about what he does as a school board member. He visits the schools, and he talks about what all this stuff means for teachers. And one of the things at the end is he says, there's a concept called reverse design that's critical. We are violating that with our test. Instead of connecting what we learn in school with being successful in the real world, we're doing it in reverse. We're testing first, and then kids go into the real world. Whether the information they have learned is important or not becomes secondary. If you really did a study on the math most kids need, I guarantee you could probably dump about 80% of the math scores and leave high-level math for the kids who want it and will need it. So
Well,
there we are. What are your thoughts on this?
I have a number of thoughts on this. Not all of them are complimentary of Mr. Roach.
Okay.
I appreciate the idea of taking the exam. I think that was a great thing for him to do, and I definitely appreciate that he decided to go public and talk about it. I'm a little concerned about that statement at the end about reverse design, because what that sounds to me like is not so much standardized tests are the problem, but that this is the wrong standardized test, or the curriculum behind the standardized test itself is wrong, and that really what we need to be doing is this idea of like reverse engineering education, where there's like this end goal, and it's this perfect little.
It does sound like that.
You know, this perfect little scenario in which you graduate with this bucket of knowledge, and we just need to figure out what that bucket is and then teach and test for that, as opposed to what we're teaching and testing for now. And I think that if that is what he is saying, I think that's a very dangerous and overly simplistic approach. And then I actually went and was reading some of the comments on this blog post, and I don't know if this is true, But one of the commenters went and found, I mean, I know this part is true, that you can get a copy of this test actually from a few years ago on the Florida State website. And the commenter said he or she took it and it was really easy. So
Okay.
I would appreciate, frankly, having a little bit more information
Sure.
from Mr. Roach and this person who wrote about Mr. Roach
So do you
about the
think
kind of content that was on the test and where the disconnect was, and specifically what sort of questions were on it that he thought were problematic or
Do you think he had an agenda going in then?
it's
mean-
hard to say.
Okay.
I don't think so, because if you read the article, it does sound like he did really try to stay anonymous for a while and then decided to come out publicly. And to me, that seemed genuine and spontaneous. And if he had gone into this with an agenda as a politician,
Right.
you would think that he wouldn't have cared about the anonymity. Of course, that could all be opposed as well. But I just think it didn't sound to me like he was doing a whole lot of really deep thinking or talking about the concept and problem of standardized testing to begin with.
Yeah, he talks at the very
And-
end about his final conclusion is they are defending a test that has no accountability. And I agree with you. I think there is kind of a simplistic nature to this test. I mean, to this experiment.
Right.
So, and I think what often happens when people get their first dose of reality when it comes to what's going on in schools
yeah.
is that there is this kind of first reaction that's this epiphany
Right.
that says there's something really wrong and gosh, I was just completely changed and now we need to dive in and
Except
pull everything out.
that if you read the comment thread, one of the other commenters notes that Mr. Roach's graduate degrees are in educational psychology. So he can't really play the card of, I'm just this businessman appointed to a
Sure.
board who doesn't know much about education, and now my, the scales have been lifted, and, I think there's a little bit more going on there, and for somebody who has a background in educational psychology, it would be nice to see a deeper, more thoughtful, but at the same time, this is a short piece in a blog.
Gets a conversation started.
Yeah, and it may be that he has much deeper thoughts about this that haven't been captured yet or weren't captured in this particular article. I would be interested in following up on this and seeing what happens. I, for one, am going to go take that test.
Okay.
And I think we all should in DTLT. And then we should reveal
Our scores.
our scores. Actually, no, I don't. Yes, I do.
I would
No,
be curious.
Yes, I do.
I didn't know that the test was available to look at. So I would at least go and look at it.
It is a few years old. So the person
Okay.
who mentions us in the comments, that person
How many is
suggests,
a few years?
I think it was 3 years old. I think it was 2008.
Okay.
Either 2006 or 2008.
And that makes a difference. How?
Well, they change the questions every year to a
Okay.
certain degree, I guess, partly because if copies of the test get out,
Okay.
they don't want.
Are
But
you
the
suggesting
question
that I
is
might
whether or
cheat?
not, well, no. The question is whether or not there has been any redesign of the test in the last couple of years since the version that's up. And the person in the comments says that they don't think that's the case.
Okay.
So, but my only point is the caveat is that if we are going to go look at this, we do need to acknowledge that it is not the test that is being, exactly the test that is being taught today in Orange County, but
Okay.
we suspect it is very similar.
Okay.
Does that
Sure.
make sense? Okay.
Sure. That's fine.
I'm all about the details, Andy.
I've recognized that for a long time now. I wonder, the standardized test being the standardized test. I wonder, can something change that much?
Good question.
That really is going to measure whatever it is.
It's all
that
about
people
whatever
believe.
body of knowledge
Right.
is underneath it. And presumably that body of knowledge has been somewhat static since the FCAT was created.
Sure.
And so I think it is worth at least looking at that. And I would have appreciated, again, in that article, at one point he even talks about a particular question,
Sure.
but doesn't describe what that question was or what the disconnect was. So, I would like to know.
And hopefully others out there can add in their 2 cents about maybe some of these details that we haven't discovered yet. I'm going to kind of pursue this a little bit further and see, again, looking at the test, seeing if there are any other details that give some of the background of this particular gentleman. But I think one of the neat things, I guess, is that he's encouraging others to kind of investigate their tests in their areas.
Yes.
And
I think that I do really applaud.
Sure. So I
And
hope that people will follow through. I have noticed as part of this conversation that principals and vice principals, administrations within school districts have said, we've known this for a while now, and we're glad that this is getting
Right.
to be out there. This
Right.
information is being kind
Well,
of revealed. So.
And another part of this that I think is really interesting, and that he sort of hinted at the beginning of the article, where they mentioned that there had been a previous article in which he had been anonymous, and he had decided to do this, but I guess part of the reason why he was going to be anonymous was for fear that he might be ridiculed if his results weren't that good. And I would suspect, this is just my speculation, but I would suspect that he's laughing at me. I would suspect that a lot of people in positions, people who should be looking at these more closely, school board members, parents, community leaders, even administrators in schools, would be reluctant to take these tests for that exact reason.
Yeah.
For the fear that we all have.
Mm-hmm.
It's that deep fear that all human beings share, that we're not as smart as we think we are, or as smart as people think we are. And then, really, what that says, though, is if that really is human nature, and we already feel that way as adults when we think about the notion of going and taking this test that we're giving to our kids and our students, what does that say about these kinds of tests as measures of human intelligence or capability?
Exactly. You took the words right out of my mind. It's, the whole idea is that probably kids in 10th grade would do generally better than the adults, simply because
it's fresh.
It's fresh, and it's what they've been
and they've
practicing.
been taught to that test.
Yeah, they've been practicing for probably
Yeah.
the last several months
Yeah.
before the test actually occurs. And so, if those students don't do well, either it's test anxiety, or they don't know the stuff, or they've just haven't quite got those concepts or whatever. So there is no really telling the validity of these tests. And when it comes to the real world, this stuff goes out of our brain because we don't use it.
Right.
And if an educational psychologist takes this test, I would predict results just like he got.
Right.
If someone was a accountant, then they might do a lot better on the math, or something along that line. So. Exactly. My thoughts were right on par. That's what we would kind of expect from these tests, and it's the point of their lack of validity. So, but we're gonna keep on this story. We'll
bring you the latest.
Investigate further. We'll have updates as soon as they're available. But seriously, we do enjoy kind of investigating and talking about this stuff. It's been somewhat of a theme on some of these DTLT Today
Thanks
shows.
for inviting me. I'm going to head back to my office now.
Okay.
Okay.
I'll say goodbye.
Okay, give me a call if you ever need me to come.
We have some lovely parting gifts
thank you.
for you. But that's DTLT Today for today. Thanks again, Martha.
Bye.
And to our fans out there, thanks for watching. We'll see you again tomorrow.
Thank you.